All right, boys and girls, welcome back to Detroit Tesla. About a year ago, I was posting a lot more, and I posted a couple videos about Tesla performance and some comparisons to some other performance vehicles in the EV space, and a lot of you seem to actually like it. So, what do we have here today? Out in the Nuremberg, however you pronounce it, a Model S Plaid refresh was spotted. This is linked to right here, Tesla plates in Germany, some testers driving around. And before I get into what I see and what I think and all stuff like that, let me go back to a different time, which was a few months ago in February, where Lars Moravy, the VP of Engineering, was on the Ride My Lightning Tesla podcast. And when he was asked about the S and X and how some people feel that it's going to be discontinued based on rumors, he confirmed that it is going to be a refresh. So that was our first hint. Our hint that was a couple days before these previous pictures that you saw here was Mr. Breaking News himself saying that supercharging for the Model S and X is now limited to inventory models instead of custom orders. So that was a pure shine in Tesla fashion, if you follow the company as long as I have, that they were moving towards a refresh. And then voila, a day later, we get these pictures. Now, this looks like your typical 2024, 2025 Model S with the refreshed taillights here and the matrix headlights that they get now. You can see them better here. Now, from a perspective of, since this is kind of their flagship model for now until the Roadster comes out, let me know if you guys want to make a video about that and I can put it out. And some things that I noticed first, if you kind of look in this area right here, and if I can kind of like zoom in on the front, you can kind of see this front camera right here. Sorry about this stuff on the bottom. And that indicates that they're going to bring over the front camera from the Cybertruck, which makes a lot of sense. On the Cybertruck, you do need a front camera because if you drive one like me, you know the space and everything that's included in it and how it's kind of hard to see out of the front, but it helps in parking. So that's great. They brought that to the Model Y as well. Some new looking rims, which is cool. I like those style. They don't have the kind of like center caps on them. And what looks like to be ceramic brakes. It's hard to tell, but that is something that I would request from it. And of course, they're covering the front and back because they're probably going to give it a more aggressive look. Now, I don't have the pictures because I can't find them, but when they went from the predecessor of the Plaid, the P100D, to the Plaid, they were running the Plaid tri-motor drivetrain on the older style, earlier Plaids to P100D, older front and back fascia and bumpers, and had the chrome around the trim and the door handle and all that fun stuff. So they were testing a Plaid, and it was camouflage, and it said dual motor back here. Now, this is a Plaid, obviously, because this is a Model S, and what else would they be testing around a racetrack? Why else would they be doing that? So that's kind of my, first observations. Now, being part of the Tesla family and owning a Plaid and looking forward to owning another Plaid and a Cybertruck and a Model 3 and Model Y, from a design exterior perspective, I'm going to be upfront with you guys. I don't expect anything crazy. But the way that they do is that from far away, when you look at the new Model 3 Refresh Performance Highland and the old Model 3, it looks the same from far away. But when you come up front, those little subtle differences actually add up. But again, I don't think they're going to change this much. That's why we are already seeing this on the track and they're testing it, because for them to completely do a redesign of the body and all that type of stuff, which a lot of people are complaining about online in the groups that I'm noticing on Reddit and Facebook and TikTok and everywhere, that they should do a kind of a different body style. I kind of disagree with that. I know this is going to be hard since we're going to compare Porsche later on, but essentially, this is kind of their flagship model, and in my opinion, it's kind of timeless, just like Porsche has their 911, and I know you fanboys are going to be upset in the comment section. Feel free to write me paragraphs and disagree with me. I'm open to that and be objective about stuff, but I think this is a timeless look. This is their first flagship model. This was one of their first kind of bigger vehicles, not just size, but Model S kind of put Tesla on the map, and then the Model 3 came out and Y to make it affordable. So that's kind of everything I see in the kind kind of spy shots before we move on to the next, kind of theory of what I think it would like to see and what I think they're about to do. Just looking over everything. Everything looks pretty basic. Just refresh bumper and rear bumper, front and back, camera. Probably have some ambient lighting, bringing a little bit of the better build quality from the 3-in-1 and the Cybertruck. But that's really about it. So let's go and look at the current specs right now of any Plaid that you buy. So current specs right now, performance times, and keep in mind, guys, this video is going to be more performance oriented, not about styling or stuff like that. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of YouTubers out there that'll talk about that, but there's not enough of them that talk about Tesla performance, because you can literally get one of these used Plaids 21, 22 for under 55K, which is mind-boggling. But currently, 0 to 60 Tesla advertised 1.99 as a 2-year Plaid owner before I got rid of it. I can tell you that's with 1-foot rollout. On the street or drag strip, you're typically going to get 2.1 to 2.3 is about right. Quarter mile, Tesla advertises 9.2. I just put 9.4 seconds, to be fair, at 153. It's anywhere from 148 to 153 because 9.4 seems to be more common. We are pushing, obviously, with this current Plaid, 1,020 horsepower. When you are peak performance ready, closer to 100%, it's around 1,100-ish wheel, but only for the last 5%, at a higher state of charge. 60 to 130, 4.7, and people say that's with a fresh battery and stuff like that. I've had a Plaid with 60,000 miles, and I've gotten 4.7 after a couple pulls. Again, the peak performance drag strip mode heats it up, the battery only, not the motors. So you have to heat up the motors too by doing that. You can check this out on Brooks by drag times. This is the numbers I'm pulling from the half mile, 14.6 at 184. 14.8 is also common as well. The mile, which I forgot, it was CarWow or somebody else did that at 24 seconds. I believe it's 203. Top speed is 203 with the ceramic brake kit. No, this image doesn't show the ceramic brake kit. Those are just kind of better pads and painted calipers from Tesla. And 203, I say 216 is possible because if you look up Model S Plaid 216 mph, a video from Electric will pop up where they had a company in Quebec where Electric and a lot of those modded kind of Tesla guys live and have their operations, showing that you could get a modded Plaid for kind of like an unlocked to unlocked limiter, and they show that they do 216. Again, if you understand RPM and electric motors and how the carbon wrapped rotors are wrapped in this Plaid, it can go as fast as you want because it's carbon wrapped, so the drive units don't blow up or come apart as you go to high speeds. That's why they carbon wrapped them. That's why the new Model 3 Performance is limited to 155, 160 miles per hour, because it's a software limiter. If you understand electric motors can go to any top speed you pretty much want. Now, I believe these are running at 28,000 RPM, capable of 24,000 RPM, but any speed that you want, like I just mentioned, you just have to have really good cooling and make sure it doesn't fall apart because of something called radial expansion. And radial expansion happens is when the rotor expands inside the drive unit because of the high speed performance, watts, voltage, all that fun stuff. And that rotor that is carbon wrapped, carbon fiber, keeps it together. You guys can look it up. There's a lot of other YouTube channels that talk about this. Now, you guys might have seen these specs down here, and you're probably thinking, what in the hell? So this is kind of the assumption part, right? Kind of kind of theory part. And I'll get to the Lucid and Taycan section in a little bit and why I think it's going to be around there. Again, this is assuming that we are going to be around 1,500 horsepower. Yes, you heard me right. They're going to boost it to 1,500 horsepower, and I'll show you how they're going to get there with voltage and all the fun cooling stuff. So if they were to do this, 1,500 horsepower in the Plaid refresh, 0 to 60 would be around 1.7 seconds. Quarter mile, 8.4, 165. Again, keep in mind, guys, this is just some theories that I'm putting out there. 60 to 130 easily would be in the high threes at that point because I'm sure they're going to shave some weight off of it too. Half mile, again, just some theories, more top speed. 216 easily because we've seen the Plaid. If you look up that video, do 216. So 230 realistically, if they don't make a Plaid 2.0 drivetrain, they could do that. So those are kind of my theories of the old Plaid and what might be the new Plaid. I wouldn't be surprised if they do match it with the Lucid, make it 1,250 horsepower, but then make it lighter because Tesla is vertically integrated with making a lot of things in-house and making their vehicles lighter because they have so much data, all that fun stuff. So what are some things that they can bring over to the new Plaid that are next gen tech that we could see for them to kind of, make this as 1,500 horsepower, 1,300 horsepower, but also making it lighter, right? And it would be very easy for them. So again, the only vehicle as of right now in Tesla's lineup that is 800 volt architecture is the Cybertruck, and ideally that currently. So when you bring a higher voltage architecture, again, Ohm's law, go study it, electric motors and batteries like that because they have more voltage to pull from. The current Plaids are doing 400 to 425, while the Lucid Sapphire and the Porsche Taycan are doing 800, and we can even talk about the Rimats, but the Rimac Nevera is way, way, way in a different ballpark, and we'll get there once the Roadster's released. So 800 volt architecture. What happens with that? Well, when you bring up a higher voltage architecture, you can run a lot thinner wires with your gauge, right? Because you have higher voltage, basic Ohm's law. So copper is heavy, and that's what's inside of those wires to transfer the electricity from the batteries and the motors. So right there, you are getting rid of a lot of weight, and you think it's not. But go look up the typical amount of kilometers or miles that your typical OEM wires run in cars, and you will be surprised how long they are. So bringing in the kind of wiring and architecture they have from the Cybertruck would be amazing. The motors would become more efficient, right? Because when you bring in that higher voltage, it's all about efficiency. How efficient can you get those motors and the batteries and the transfer, which is the inverter that converts the DC to AC from the battery to the motors? Making it more efficient means more horsepower. An extra 2, 3, 4, 500 horsepower is nothing for Tesla engineering. So that kind of like sums up the Volkitz architecture. And I think they're going to bring it to this because the Cybertruck, Model S, and Model X are a higher end spectrum for Tesla higher end clients because not everybody can dish out $70,000 for a car. Not saying the Plaid is going to be, but that's the Cybertruck. S and X are probably going to be $100,000. Again, not going to debate pricing. That's not what this video is about. Ceramic brakes. Yes, Plaids do have ceramic brakes if you buy the track pack, right? So I would assume that they're going to start including that from the factory, which I agree with every Plaid owner out there and all the reviewers. Unless you're kind of, not tracking it or not constantly running it fast, ceramic brakes are nice for the car. Steer by wire. Now, this is a little bit controversial, but a lot of Plaid owners that have driven the Cybertruck or own them know that the steer by wire is a game changer on the Cybertruck, and it's a 6,800 to 7,000 pound, depending if you get the dual motor or the Cyber Beast. But bring it to a vehicle that's, even if they keep the weight the same, 4,700, 4,800 pounds, it is going to corner better than a GT3 RS easily. And if you guys don't know, if you Porsche fanboys want to argue, it's fine. Leave your comments down below. But I've driven, and the Cybertruck cuts corners like a sports car. Now, you can't get over the 1,600 pounds, but if you're knocking down to 2,000 pounds, 4,700, 4,200, or maybe even they'll do it 4,000 pounds, it's going to help a lot in the corners. Big time. Now, also reducing parts because from the actual yoke or wheel to the area down here that I can't think of the name, excuse me, I'm not an automotive expert, there's no direct connection, right? It is two sensors, one stands for redundancy and one actually operates, and it's pretty much like a video game, right? That's turning your wheels. You can go look up steer by wire, there's probably some better videos that are going to explain it, but that's something I want to see. Okay, coming back a little bit to the 800 volt architecture, efficient motors, higher voltage, they're going to be more efficient. And why I think they're going to come out with, they might not call this, but this is my theory, a Plaid 2.0 motor, because not only from the cooling, but they're going to be more efficient with the architecture, so they can be pushed a lot more. Now, cooling, right? I should have put that underneath here, but I didn't put this in any particular order, just some features I wanted to see, and I think they're going to do. Cooling. So if you follow this guy on X and look it up, they patented a design back in December of last year, Tesla that is, for cooling, and they're going to do a jagged fluid cooling. Now, for those of you that don't understand that build PCs, you'll know the difference between jaggeded and the standard flow. I'm not saying that term correctly, but I just want to get this video out as quick as I can because, like I said, there's not enough performance videos out there about the Plaids, even though they are monsters. And so the kind of fluid is going to be directly inside of the stator, the electric motor stator, instead of being outside of where it is currently, not outside the vehicle, but outside of the stator in the current Plaids. So that cooling will be even better. So when you have better cooling and a better voltage architecture and more power, you can push it even more because, again, bump up the voltage architecture, bump up the specs, stuff like that. Things are going to get a lot more hot, right? That's why with the Plaids, it's crazy to me that they're able to do that with 400 to 450 volt architecture and do the cooling, outside of the stator. But now this is going to be direct. A simple analogy, again, think of how they currently cool it as putting an ice pack on your forehead, and that's your forehead being the stator, and they kind of cool it down like that. Where the method that they want to do in this patent is actually dunking your head into a bucket of water, right? And your head being the stator and the rest of everything that is in the drive unit, right? In that area. So that's kind of like, where my next gen tech lies and where I think I want them to go and want them to be. Again, we don't know until it comes out, but I think they're going to at least, bring some of the stuff. I think steer by wire is a must, but Tesla could disappoint us. You never know. I'm being objective about this. So getting to what a lot of you probably came for. Again, I'm just pulling these specs, Plaid, Lucid Sapphire, Porsche Taycan GT 2025, Y Schwaber edition. I can never pronounce it for the life of me. So we have here the specs that, I updated. I didn't put the pricing, but I will tell you guys, the Plaid, obviously $100K right now. They could bump it up if they actually release something like this, which would be freaking incredible. But again, this is me more kind of speculating on these specs. You can look up the old specs and then kind of compare them from a couple slides ago or earlier in the video. Plaid is around $100,000 right now. If they keep that, that's awesome. And you can see how easily they would not even one up, but two up the Lucid Sapphire and the Porsche Taycan, which is somewhat of their competition. Now, going over to the Lucid, 0 to 60 in 1.8, quarter mile in 8.9, 153, 60 to 130 around 4.2. I have seen someone personally do 4 seconds after a couple pulls, half mile, quarter mile, Again, I meant to put mile here, excuse me, but I couldn't find any data on the mile. According to Lucid, in a video that was comparing the Plaid, right around the same with the current generation Plaid for the half mile, maybe a little bit more. Again, top speed 204, 1234 horsepower, probably closer to 1300 if you understand EVs, and it weighs 5,200 pounds, 4-door sedan. Comes with carbon ceramics. Same thing with the Porsche. Porsche Taycan GT 2025, right neck and neck with the new Plaid. There's no half mile or mile data on this. So again, I couldn't find it anywhere, but top speed, this is kind of more being Porsche, track oriented, 5,100, 1,000 horsepower-ish. But keep in mind, Porsche fanboys and everybody watching, that is only for 30 seconds. Right? And then it has to cool down because, again, they're trying to make it more in Porsche fashion and Porsche tradition, being more of a kind of track-focused car, which is fine. That's cool. But those are kind of the specs. Again, if they release what I think they're going to release at Tesla, this is essentially where it's going to lie. This is a little bit of kind of like speculation, but again, it all depends on what they want to do. People keep calling it the Plaid Plus. I don't think they're going to use that name. It's just going to be the next, 2025, 2026 Plaid. And now that we're getting those spy shots from, the earlier part of the video, essentially, you have to understand that in Tesla fashion, if we're already starting to see spy shots, which the Model Y Jupiter refresh has also been spotted at the same day as testing that Plaid from those earlier spy shot images at the Nuremberg in Germany. Essentially, what's happening is that it's almost time to release that Plaid refresh, and that's usually how Tesla rolls for all their vehicles. So, this is essentially my thoughts and everything. Again, Tesla does pay attention. It would be really easy for them to do something like this. it is realistic. This isn't kind of theory. Really easy for them to do given their vertical integration, everything they do. But I think they're going to give Lucid and Porsche a run for their money and not one step them up, but 2-3 steps. So if you enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, do whatever you like. Comment down below your thoughts. Pick at this. Let me know. I could make an updated version. If you like these style of videos next to my AI videos and, self-driving longer videos, let me know. I would happily do more of these videos. It'd be really, really fun to do them. And again, I just wanted to give some performance aspects on what could be with this upcoming different Model S Plaid we got here. And as a final note, I know a lot of you are complaining about the exterior and they didn't do much. Again, like I said earlier in the video, they could go ahead and just be hiding what their actual refresh is going to look like. They did that when they went from the P100D to the Plaid. So again, wrapping everything up, I feel like this is going to be more of a under the hood type of thing, and internally, like, ambient lighting, different materials, blah, 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 versus them actually redesigning the body, which to me, it doesn't make sense because I understand how Tesla works compared to everybody else. They're not going to do that much. When in that same interview with Lars Moravy, and you can look that up, and I might make a separate video if you guys want, kind of speculating what the Roadster is going to do, since they're already talking about 0 to 60 under a second, and that is not fantasy, that is actual physics and science, and I can prove it to you guys. If you want me to do the Roadster video and kind of like clip that part where he talks about the Roadster and confirms that the next generation Roadster is going to come out, and I promise you, again, fanboys that hate Elon didn't mention it. That was Lars Moravy talking about that, the VP of engineering, in my opinion, the head engineer that actually gets everything done. So thanks for tuning into Detroit Tesla. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one.